host of the Gridiron.
Which quarterback is the best fit for the New York Football Giants? Now, Ward had a good game, even though they lost. Shador had a good game. And then Jalen Milroe, they won as well, too. So this article here talks about, right, which quarterback in the 2025 NFL draft is the best fit for the New York Giants? They talk about, I guess, pretty much like the top three. Because, I mean, as of right now, just according to PFF, that's all I go by. And just listen to some other people, whatever. There's like three teams, three quarterbacks as of right now that have first-round grades on them, right? I mean, there's a couple other guys, obviously, but also by PFF, they got like second or maybe third-round grades on it. I mean, you got Milroe, you got Ward, you got Sanders. Those are like the three guys. Right. Neither one is 100% polished. They all have some good things to them. They all have their own flaws to them. So first of all, they talk about the Giants released quarterback, obviously Daniel Jones. With that, it's time to look at who is on top of the quarterback class that is potential, but is yet to see someone separate themselves as the unequivocal QB1, which is true. It's like one, one time, maybe, obviously maybe Ward, and Sanders, and Sanders does really good, and then Milroe has a horrible game, and but they all, they did pretty good this week. All right, so first of all, they talk about Cam Ward. There wasn't a bigger story in the transfer portal last year than Washington State quarterback Cam Ward going to Miami with the expectations that he would lead them to the promised land. It's yet to be seen if he finishes his mission, but he's currently leading Miami on their best season since 2001. And if it weren't for historic seasons by Travis Hunter, and he would be the Heisman frontrunner. Yeah. According to this article, this is from SI.com. Ward might be the best pure passer in the draft this year, with the arm talent to make every throw asked of him and the ability to throw from any arm slot or angle. Okay. Miami's offense is an air raid system. Sometimes that can be very misleading. That gives him the ability to make adjustments as he sees fit based on what the defense is showing and requires him to make pre-snap reads. Where Ward's negatives lies are the same issues I had in the 2024 NFL draft with Caleb Williams. He tries to play hero ball, and while he's proven he can make those plays, it also leads to back-breaking sacks and turnovers at times. Defenses defend Ward the same way they would defend Caleb, by dropping 8 into coverage, rushing 3 players, and letting him make mistakes. Ward is accurate throwing to every level of the field and can throw off platform with the best of them. Watching Ward's film can be frustrating at times because he's got the athletic traits to make plays with his legs and pick up free yardage, but chooses to wade and drift around in the backfield to look for a pass. This is something else here, all right? Although he's toned it down a lot, but Ward has fumbled 50 times. Now, what was one of the biggest things that, the biggest problems we had with Daniel Jones, especially his rookie season, and then it started getting better and better, was he had some intercept, but fumbling. Oh, my God. The fumbles were holy cow. But so Cam Ward, right, has fumbled 50 times in his 5-year collegiate career. And while that number has been held just to 4 times this year, so you figure in his first 4 years, he's fumbled 46 times. That's like basically like 1 time a game he's fumbling the ball. He's played behind an elite offensive line. And the problem is that, when you're playing behind an elite offensive line in college, that's all great. But if you're going to get picked number 1, 2, or 3 or something like that, why are those teams 1, 2, or 3 or 4? Whatever? Because they suck. Right? So right, when you don't have an elite offensive line, aka like the New York Giants, what are you going to do? Huh? So, I mean, nothing would make us pull our hair out, right? Any more than just a quarterback back there fumbling the football. It would just bring back, shades of Daniel Jones from 2019 and 20 and all of that, right? I forgot exactly how many times Jones fumbled the ball his first couple of years, but it was a lot. If he doesn't have an elite offensive line, will those fumbles rear their ugly head once again? Right? I mean, you could say, you can just, he's going to get smacked around with the Giants, quite possibly, The offense he plays and now gives him predetermined reads that won't be as freely available in the NFL, and he'll need to convince teams he can limit the mistakes when the pre-snap read doesn't pan out. And, if it's playing, Buffalo State Tech A&I is one thing. Coming to the NFL is something else, right? So, but I mean, the guy, is very, very good, but he's got to do a better job with that. Obviously with the fumbling. I mean, all of these guys have potential, but they all have some negatives to them as well. But listening to is that a couple of people say there's no Patrick Mahomes, there's no Josh Allen, there's no Matthew Stafford, and there's there's no Lamar Jackson, right? So if you're taking the guy number 1, it doesn't mean he can't be very, very good. Certainly doesn't mean that, but there's no surefire guaranteed hit at any of these guys here. And they said the next guy is the enigma. They're talking about Sanders. There may not be a more polarizing quarterback prospect than Shedeur Sanders. Sanders is a fearless passer that operates as a quarterback with the same level of confidence that his father Dion operated as a cornerback. Oh yeah, Dion was very confident. Let me tell you what. When he's kept relatively clean in the pocket, he's deadly accurate and layers throws like a veteran. The issue is that when pressure gets in, he does a horrible job of extending plays with his legs and takes far too many sacks. In fact, 20.1% of all pressures on Sanders resulted in a sack. That's not good. A number that will need to improve at the next level. NFL teams will likely spend as much time as possible with Sanders to discuss some of the off-field things that I think they will be concerned about. Sanders has criticized his offensive line. Yep. In post-game press conference and has taken to social media to voice concerns with former teammates that entered the transfer portal. Many fans won't care about these things, and many front offices might not, but the Giants as an organization will likely look further into the off-field concerns. The bigger concern is how Sanders breaks down when pressure gets in, considering he tends to hold the ball too long. Sanders holds the ball because he's risk adverse. Being risk averse is fine, but allowing that to lead to you to getting pressure and making mistakes isn't. Personally, I think that Sanders is playing in an offense that is quarterback friendly right now, and it's leading to some of these breakdowns. So then you got the last one, Jalen Milroe. And you look at Milroe's numbers. I mean, this his touchdown and interception rate is not very good at all this year. Jalen Milroe is the least pro-ready passer of the 3 quarterbacks, but he's also the best athlete by a large margin. Milroe has improved year over year as a passer, and while he's got less touchdowns and more interceptions in 2024 than in 2023, that doesn't tell the whole story. Milroe has made better decisions this year, but is hampered by being in the first year of a very different offensive system with the worst supporting cast he's ever had. But, I mean, if he's had a bad supporting cast now and he's not getting great numbers, what's he going to do when a crappy team like the Raiders or the Giants picks him? What's going to happen then? So, Alabama's receivers have almost twice as many drops in 2024 than they had in 2023 and fewer games than last year. Well, I mean, once again, in the years in the past, right, when Saban was there, it seems like every year you got like 2 wide receivers coming out in the first round from Ohio State, 1 or 2 wide receivers coming out in the first round from like LSU, 1 or 2 receivers coming out in the first round from Alabama. So what happens when you don't go to Alabama in the NFL, right? When they don't have 17 first-round wide receivers for you to throw the ball to, what's going to happen? Yeah. Milroe was another quarterback that took too many unnecessary sacks in 2023, but has taken that percentage down quite a bit this year. So obviously that's a plus. Milroe's issue, in comparison to Warren Sanders, is that he's the worst passer of the 3 by a considerable margin. His selling point is that if he does develop accordingly as a passer, he's got MVP upside. Oh, okay. There you go. It's important to note here that despite getting the vote of confidence and reassurance that Shane and possibly Dable will be back, we've heard that before, only for it not to be true. So, however, if Dable is still the head coach, then I think the quarterback he would prefer most would be either Ward or Milroe due to their big-time arm talent while still being rushing threats. And that's something, it's amazing, though, you think about with like Deion Sanders and his son. I mean, because we got Cam Ward, Sanders' father's situation. Yeah. But you think about like with Sanders, is apparently he's like the worst of the 3 as far as like athletic running and stuff. You would think like, picture almost, if you will. I mean, if you remember Michael Vick back there. I mean, you give that guy, he's back there and he pulls that baby down, tucks that mofo, and he sees space. Good luck and God bless to the defense. It's almost like with Deion. It'd be the same thing with Deion Sanders. I mean, Michael Vick and Deion. I mean, if Deion was a quarterback, and so you would think it's like Deion. His son's got to be a freakish. I mean, he's obviously a phenomenal athlete. Don't get me wrong, but you would think about I could just see him like just almost like jumping over people and taking all that stuff. But he's like the worst out of all as far as like I guess making things happen. I guess with his legs and everything like that. But like this year, I mean, Cam Ward. Now, once again, I don't break down film. I don't have time for that. Wish I did, but I don't. But what we got this year, he's completed 67% of his passes. He has 36 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Very, very good. He has over 4,100 yards. I don't know how many more games they have. He's rushing. I mean, he hasn't his past work. His last 5 games, he really hasn't ran the ball at all. What we got? Last year with Washington State, he had 25 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. 2 years ago, Washington State, 23 and 9. So he's gotten a little bit better each year, right? But they also did mention that maybe he has a far superior offensive line with Miami than he did for Washington State. And I keep saying one of the things is when you get drafted high, and the reason why usually you get drafted high is because the team sucks. They got some deficiencies. Now with Shador, let's see here. He's got just 2 years, right? He's completing 74% of his passes, right? 35 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. What we got here? Rushing attempts. I mean, he doesn't really run much at all, right? I mean, when he does, he's not averaging much, but he has over 3,900 yards, 12 games. Last year with Colorado, he was 27 and 3. So actually his interceptions have gone up this year. He was 27 and 3 last year. Very, very good. This year he's 35 and 8. So he's almost kind of like, sounds a little bit kind of like with Sanders, almost like he tries to protect the ball maybe too much. He doesn't maybe want to try to turn the ball over, which in a sense is very good, very, very good. But sometimes instead of trying to get the, taking a chance on taking that shot, and maybe making it happen, it doesn't happen because he holds on to the ball because it might wind up being an interception. So it's got its good points and bad points to it. And the thing is that, if, you don't want to take that shot down the field, but maybe you can tuck it and run. Okay, maybe you pick up some yards, whatever the defense might give you, but he doesn't seem to do that. So, but then you got Milroe. I mean, this year his touchdowns and interceptions. What was it? He's got 15 touchdowns this year with 10 interceptions. Played 12 games. Last year with Saban, right? It was 23-6, but that was his third year. That was 23 was his third year with Alabama. Third year, pretty much in the same system, same coach. But although this first 2 years, he hardly played at all. I mean, his first 2 years, he threw a grand total of 60 passes. But last year in 2023, he completed 65.8% of his passes for 2,800 yards. He had 23 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. But this year it's 15-10. So it's a brand new system and everything. So 15-10. I mean, Alabama's got 3 losses. I can't remember the last time Alabama had 3 losses. So it's gonna be very, very interesting. I mean, you certainly don't want the Giants reaching for a quarterback. That you certainly don't want to do. But I mean, if Dable's around, we're talking about him next. Yeah, we're going to talk about him next. But Dable's around. If him and Shane, if they got conviction about one of these guys, the thing is, if they draft a quarterback, right, next season, that'll give them pretty much another season, pretty much because you draft a quarterback. And then after next season, they're say they're fired, and then you bring somebody else in. He may not want this quarterback, So, but if they have a conviction, I mean, you saw on Hard Knocks that Dable, it was asked. Shane asked him, "Would you want to trade up for Daniels?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." So, you don't know. You'll never know. You'll never hear and all this stuff and everything what Dable actually thinks about Daniel Jones. So one of those things, but I'm sure Daniel Jones was not his cup of tea.